In addition to creating an amazing library of new titles on PlayStation 4, we're equally focused on delivering what gamers want most, without imposing restrictions or devaluing their PS4 purchases. For instance, PlayStation 4 won't impose any new restrictions on the use of PS4 games. We believe in the model that people embrace today with PlayStation 3 and continue to demand. Just heard you there. When a gamer buys a PS4 disc, they have the rights to use that copy of the game. They can trade in the game at retail, sell it to another person, lend it to a friend, or keep it forever. In addition, PlayStation 4 disc-based games don't need to be connected online to play. Or for any type of authentication. If you enjoy playing single-player games offline, PS4 won't require you to check in online periodically. And it won't stop working if you haven't authenticated within 24 hours. Guess that's a good thing.
I think this is probably one of the stupidest things that any game company has ever done, but it's not just a Sony thing. I was kind of hoping yesterday, with the amount of metric backlash that we saw from everyone in the community, like there were huge celebrities coming out and talking about this, that Sony would just go, oh guys, by the way, we fucked up. We're sorry. That so far has not happened. Sony has not really said anything. And honestly, I don't think anything is going to change. I think the actual the actual bomb has dropped, and the reality of it is that I guess most people are just going to have to get used to that shit, you know?
You know, this has been something that has caused a massive reaction within the gaming community, both gamers and people who have business interests within games. It's, you know, no doubt going to have catastrophic effects to things like preservation, which has already struggled in the sort of digital present that we exist in. It's probably going to be the death knell, the final nail in the coffin for retail sales eventually.
This is over with! It's over with! I was asking myself, did Sony just seal the fate of my video game business? Is there any hope left for physical media?
This isn't really an issue about discs. This is an issue about consumer ownership and consumer rights. It's a question of if buying isn't really owning, if you're only buying a license, consumers should deserve to know what they're actually purchasing with their hard-earned money. People still produce a lot of physical media. You know, I'm with the Washington Post. We still make a newspaper. You can still buy CDs. You can still buy books. You can still buy movies. But for some reason, the largest console manufacturer in the market is just pulling that all out.
Attention gamers, it has never been quite this level of over before ever. I am not looking to cover games news as stuff rolls out week to week, but I am terrified at how out of hand things have gotten. PlayStation has just announced they are actually killing physical games for good. In 2028, they are done producing discs and all their sales were strictly moved to digital. In response to shifting trends and consumer preference, new games will be released on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. I don't know if that kind of means kind of like what the news we got from Grand Theft Auto 6 last week, where we know that it's going to be a plastic case with a digital code. I don't know if that's what they mean by retailers and digital formats only. That's just a guess. As consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued by January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and retailers in digital formats only. This transition has no impact on the games that are already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in disc format. This is a natural selection for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical disc. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. We'll continue to prioritize our resources to drive innovation in how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games, whether that's at retailers or PlayStation Store. We remain committed to delivering a world-class gaming experience to our fans, and we thank you for your continued support. There is also a rumor going around that Project Helix, Xbox's next hardware device, will also be strictly digital. In the current generation consoles with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, there have been strictly digital options. The Series S is a completely digital console, there is no disk drive for that device, and the PlayStation 5 also has a digital-only offering. This news is depressing to a lot of us, and surely there will be remaining people holding up the resistance against the megacorps that want to rule our pricing options and offer us zero true ownership of our media, but that's a small number. It's a dwindling rebellion. I consider myself a realist about this stuff, and I believe the reality is it's over. The war's lost, and we actually did not put up a very good fight at all. I am not pointing the finger at myself or any of you watching who have purchased a digital game, rented a digital movie, subscribed to a streaming service, or 5, paid for a Spotify subscription. Convenience is what drives most consumers more than anything, and it's a prime opportunity for companies to take advantage of us when we choose convenience and look the other way. Am I here to blame the AI investment bubble and all of its consequences once more? I think we already know that. I think right now my mind is mostly on the top level people in the games industry making these decisions. We've been told to vote with our wallets all of our lives so far, and yeah, I guess we should have always listened to that. Or maybe we should have understood what digital ownership actually meant. What isn't our faults are the decisions made by huge conglomerates like Microsoft and Sony as the gaming industry started to really boom. People mention COVID quite a bit, sparking a big interest in video games for many people who mostly spent their lives outdoors, going to concerts, attending art festivals, touching grass. But when the new normal became staying indoors and not touching the grass to wait out the pandemic, those artsy, fun, creative people, they sometimes got bored. And that meant they started playing a whole lot of Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal. The big wigs at Sony and Microsoft and EA and Ubisoft and Nintendo, just the entire industry as a whole, they took note of this new soaring number of video game customers and made a lot of high-level future decisions based on that. Microsoft, they couldn't stop their Crusader conquest of buying every game development studio under the sun, and Sony made it their mission to produce as many live service multiplayer games as possible without any foresight for when the new player revenue would eventually plateau. I think it's worth noting that several of those live service attempts failed or were shuttered. It's almost like they never really expected people to go back outside, and all they saw was numbers go up, and surely the numbers will never stop going up or even begin to go up a little bit slower. The projections that these companies saw in 2020 were the motivation that caused the high-level decisions for this entire console generation. And in terms of Xbox, I imagine they did not expect Papa Microsoft to invest $80 billion into that AI bubble in just a few years. Why are consoles now anywhere from $700 to $900? The memory crisis is ruining everything for them. They don't have the resources to make consoles and sell them at a loss and recoup that money later through game sales, just like the industry has done for the last 30 years. So why would Microsoft do this to themselves? Well, actually, no. In a way, they are doing this to us. As bad as the news is, and as strung up as these console manufacturers are, rooted in reality or not, this is still a way to deflect the blame onto external market conditions and not their own poor decision making. If you don't believe me, look at Valve. They stay in their lane as the good guy, always treating the consumer fair with their amazing Steam sales. They draw little attention to their Counter-Strike weapons skin gambling ring, don't look at that, and they beat lawsuits like nobody's business. And just 2 weeks ago, they unveiled the price of the Steam Machine, a PC and a console-like box that makes PC gaming on your TV a more convenient experience. And it's over $1,000 for essentially an older, medium-range PC, and that's without the controller. And almost nobody cares. Now granted, there's been a lot of news in the gaming circuit in the last month, so there's just a lot to sift through. We don't really have time to talk about the Steam Machine when we're talking about everything else. But seriously, almost nobody cares about how high this thing is priced, and that's because informed consumers know the market conditions that do exist. They know how much it costs to produce that Steam Machine. And to make matters better for Valve, they're not the dimwits that cause most of this. So yeah, this digital world and its licensing arrangements, the console market altogether, all this frustrating stuff is connected like a web, and the projections just get worse and worse. I myself own a lot of digital games, and now I am kicking myself just a bit, for sure. But also I'm pretty frustrated with the folks in charge that thought the balloon would just never begin to pop. And if 90% of all game sales are digital, and that's what drives this decision, and we also know that manufacturing costs of every industry are just getting way higher every year, if that customer base is so skewed to digital, why would they bother? Why would they keep offering physical releases? For the record, I don't think the GTA 6 news last week influenced this statement from Sony. I think this has been in the works for a long time. What is odd to me is that surrounding all this bad news lately, why did they announce this now? We've had devices go up in price, we've had the GTA 6 controversy. Maybe they wanted to get ahead of this before it leaked and they knew that they would receive backlash? I'm not terribly sure about that. I think another problem is that every time you hear people say gaming is the biggest media market on the planet with the largest customer base, bigger than movies, bigger than music, it's where all the money is. What they don't go into is all the different avenues of revenue that are coming from in-games item shops, egregious monetization, things that are not actually games sold or hardware sales.
We have 1 million R6 credits. We got an hour to spend them. Chat, look at this. Look at this. Yes or no? $270.
Another thing to look at is the free-to-play business model. Video games are purchased by adults, but let's get real, video games are also for kids. And when I was a kid, there were far less free-to-play models out there. So being interested in this stuff meant going up to my dad. This is my dad, by the way. And he just got in the door from work, and he's tired, and he's worked a full day, and he's got bills that he has to pay, and he and my mom are in the process of getting the water heater replaced in the basement. And those are not cheap, and he needs to pick me up from band practice or whatever. And anyways, I go up to him, and I'm like, hi, yes, hello, I would like a new Xbox, and they are now $900, and they will probably go up in the near future, and the games cost $70, but they could also be $80 next month, we don't know. Roblox and Fortnite and similar free-to-play models are where that market greatly exists, raking in tons of cash through small microtransactions in the in-game item shop, therefore ballooning the data to show that video games in fact make more money than God in the industry and whatever. I mean, how much of that data is just coming from Candy Crush because it qualifies as a video game? But there's just a huge difference financially between mom pulling out her credit card every few months to buy some sweet Fortnite V-Bucks and the alternative of spending literally $1,000 on your kid's video game console when you have a damn mortgage to pay. The free-to-play model is going to get the most children into the ecosystem of playing video games, and they don't have the money to buy a console. Thankfully, when I was growing up, most consoles ranged from $350 to maybe $500, and they also were marked down in price over the years of its life cycle. So asking really nicely for an Xbox 360 for Christmas wasn't some absolutely impossible question in my case. If it was $750 to $900, I think my dad would have shown me how to wash cars or send me to the mines. So of course, gaming revenue comes from a lot of different places like Steam, PC hardware sales, console sales, of course, digital games. But there is this big widening gap people have began to notice in the gamers of tomorrow, kids in school with little to no money at all, and they naturally gravitate towards Fortnite, Roblox, League of Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty Mobile, Apex Legends, Dota 2, you get what I'm saying. They don't buy games, they play free ones, and they interact with the in-game store that's designed to get more cash out of them than a full-price game probably ever would. And in response to this, we've seen other games change their economies and sales model to format this widening gap. Games like Destiny 2 before it shut down last month, Rainbow Six Siege, Rocket League, Counter-Strike. These games were once something that players bought, and now they've transitioned to something that new players simply just download for free, in the hopes that they'll make small purchases in the item shop and spend lots of money over time, a business model that early adopters of the game did not experience. I know I'm preaching to the choir, and a lot of people checking out this video already know the information I'm giving them, but I bring this up to showcase just one way in which a publisher can alter the deal of something you thought you owned at any time and under any circumstance. I'll give the game industry this: when there's a band-aid to rip, they sure do like to just get it over with. We saw that GTA 6 pricing controversy last week, Xbox raised their hardware prices last week, and Sony announcing this death sentence for physical games all in the span of like 7 days. It's like a bomb went off. It's certainly an exaggeration, but it feels like console gaming is dead and over. Competition surely is. Like, the only thing Sony and Microsoft have left to compete over is who can light themselves on fire faster. I keep seeing dude after dude throw their hands up, shrug their shoulders, and say, who cares? I never go to GameStop or local media stores. I never buy games on disc anymore. I download everything I buy. You have to install games now, even with a disc, and it takes up the same amount of storage. What is the point of a disc? Who even cares? What difference does it make?
There's a lot of people on the internet that care a lot about physical media, and they care so much about it that they never buy it. Show me the last 10 video games you bought, and I want you to show me the box that you bought them in.
Well, beyond the obvious points towards physical media like true ownership, or having something that cannot be altered, or even something simple like lending a game disc to your friends so they can try the game. Besides all of that stuff, here is one you might listen to. Here is Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake for the PS5 on eBay, and now here is that same game on the PlayStation Store. That is the $45 difference that this makes. When this comes to pass for PlayStation and for Xbox, their users will be at the mercy of the brand store tied to the device. Full price digital games will remain full price for as long as feasible according to their standards, and while both of those companies do run sales on their stores, those sales are nothing like Steam. I fear this ultimately will funnel all games enthusiasts that actually really care about their stuff to the PC market, because if you're forced to buy digital games permanently, why would you really do it on any other platform long term? Why would you exclusively do it on the PlayStation? People's long-standing game libraries they've accumulated in one ecosystem, those libraries now exist for as long as they allow it. And I hope you're not just itching to replay some Uncharted 2 from way back, because that disc is not going inside of your PlayStation 6. You will have to buy that digital version of that game. If you don't have the digital version and you only have the physical, then you gotta buy that again. I mean, sure, I guess there's the chance that Sony will offer, digital versions of games that you can prove to them that you own physically, but they've said nothing about that. Only Xbox has. And it's also being generous to Sony, assuming that they are going to continue efforts towards backwards compatibility, something they certainly did not spearhead and seldomly sound very interested in. Now, I know Jim Ryan is the previous CEO of Sony and is no longer there. He seemed to actually jump ship before stuff really started going bad. But there's something to be said for the company mantra surrounding backwards compatibility, and he famously said in 2017 during a Gran Turismo event that the PS1 and the PS2 games, they look so ancient, like why would anyone play this? He actually said that. That's not good, and even though Jim Ryan doesn't work there anymore, it kind of paints a picture for how Sony feels about their older catalog of games. It's more like a right being revoked. Everyone you know listens to music on an app, probably on their phone, right? Just like everyone you probably know has an iPhone, right? But it's not like CDs just don't exist at all. Record labels have decided it's still worthwhile to make disc for albums and sell it on store shelves. Did most of us ever think that vinyl would make this big of a comeback? It came back because the relationship that one has with a vinyl copy of a record and that same record being a thing you type into your phone, those are two entirely different relationships, and they both serve a purpose. I think that's what bums me out more than anything. The option was just removed permanently, and now we lack choice. Even if you are a person that strictly buys digital games only, you should want there to be the physical option. You should want there to be choice. You should want there to be retailers. You should want there to be competition. You should want there to be discounts on games, all that stuff. Sure, this was probably going to happen, but something just makes it feel so soon, and the tinfoil part of my brain is looking at Rockstar Games right now, and it's like they knew this was coming. The games are $80. The hardware is too expensive to make, so it's almost too expensive to sell. I mean, $800 for a console is just insane. I mean, I feel bad for the kids, man. Like, coming home from Best Buy, opening the case, smelling that new game smell, you know what I'm talking about? Popping in Batman Arkham Asylum for the first time and feeling like I was truly at the epicenter of gaming. I mean, I had no idea at the time how pivotal of a device like the Xbox 360 truly was, and how it made you feel like you had the best device in your hands. Sure, you knew your friend had a PS3, and the PS3 had its own thing. It had Little Big Planet, and it had Uncharted, and it had cool things, but you also couldn't get over your Xbox 360 and how it had ODST and Halo Reach, and you felt like you had earned something by being a part of the ecosystem that you were in, and both companies were competing. As for consoles, they are not interested in doing that no more, it seems. They can't afford it. They can't afford options. As expensive as RAM is, as expensive as a good PC can be, I really think the console market is suffering some irreversible damage, and it's going to keep the youngsters on their tablets and phones buying V-Bucks, doing their thing. It's going to keep disappointing the old guard like me that just, I love nothing more than kicking back on a couch with a controller and a fat stack of games that I got at a discount price. At least when it comes to Steam, they have a more secure track record of consumer-friendly practices. They have a reputation that they have earned.
Piracy to us, so we don't really worry about piracy. You know, when we think, you know, when you look at the top 10 issues on our list at any given point in time, piracy is almost never, you know, something that's on that list. Okay. But when you look at the fact that these people have, you know, $2,000 PCs and, you know, they're spending $50 a month US more on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money. So from our point of view, what we saw more and more is that piracy is the result of bad service.
With Sony, it's the exact opposite. Steam has a way better refund policy than Sony. I mean, just within the last 2 months, they have started deleting digital movies and TV shows that customers have bought. The company that is going to make all of your games only digital has started deleting digital movies and TV shows that customers have bought. How many movies, you may ask? 551. 551 movies and TV shows removed from the library. Even if you bought some of those, gone. They decided the licensing deals were too tricky to manage, so they got rid of them for you. Sorry if you own Terminator 2, actually you don't, and it's gone. And they have begun requiring 30-day check-ins to access digital games that you already paid for. And that's the company that is delivering the news. Yeah, I think I have a good idea of how this is gonna go. Pricier consoles, pricier games, and we own nothing in a true sense, and we just receive less than we ever have. I'm not here to sway anyone or tell them what to do. I own a PlayStation 4. I enjoy having the games that I have for the PlayStation 4. I personally did not purchase a PlayStation 5. But if you're someone whose entire ecosystem is wrapped up in Sony, I would say also if you're someone whose entire ecosystem, like me, is wrapped up in Xbox, it's not a terrible existence to play old games on Steam. Like, say you have a crappy laptop like me, or you have like an old computer. No one wants to pay these current RAM prices to build a PC right now. I'm not asking you to build a PC right now. I totally get that. But if you find something that's like cheaper end, or you maybe like, people make fun of cloud streaming, but cloud streaming is getting better. The latency issues are getting better by the years as they go on. So maybe that's an option for you. If you are someone who is strictly tied to the console ecosystems at this time, I still think that buying old games that can run on almost anything on Steam is a better consumer experience every step of the way. And I would really encourage you to just like take that dip in the water and see where you might find yourself with that. That's for the console gamers like myself that kind of feel just, it's gotten so bad. Maybe there's still time. Not for RAM and processor issues. That's going to get way worse. As far as we know, the next console generation is projected to be like $1,000 for a device. Another funnel over to PC because, like, oh my god, if you're paying that much, you might as well just get a PC. Maybe there's still time to bully Sony out of this. I'm not really holding my breath, but the internet outrage has been pretty loud from it feels a lot louder than that GTA 6 news. So we'll see if anything happens here. When you pay those premium prices for a video game, when you pay $70 for a video game, when you pay for those tall console prices, who do you see getting paid? Because I'll bet you it's not the endless amount of studios both sides are having to lay off. Gaming is not dead. Console gaming is uncertain. Time will tell. But if you don't sell physical games, you are just a worse version of Steam, in my opinion, and why would anyone not go to Steam instead? And your console exclusives would have to blow every game on the PC market out of the water every single time you launch one. But if you're an unk like me, get a PC is what I would say if RAM costs were not soaring. So just, if you're an unk, like me, just play whatever you own already. Just play what you got. Do you have Doom 2016? I bet you got Doom. Go ahead and play it. Is it digital? You should, if it's digital, you should play it now while you still can. If you are a child, keep getting the V-Bucks. Keep watching those Fortnite funnies. I'm sorry that things are not better for you, that you can't experience the AAA video game landscape and the way that, the way that I got to growing up. You don't get Halo 3s no more. You don't get those because the console is like worth more than rent money in some places. Hold on to your disc. They could be worth a lot someday. We'll have to see. I actually saw last night that I have a copy of NBA College Hoops 2003, and so I went and I looked at the price of that game. Maybe I could upsell it. Discs are becoming more rare, right? Well, unfortunately, I own it on the Xbox. Just worth nothing, but it's worth a lot on the GameCube. So I messed up there. I chose wrong. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen. It's projected to get much worse than this.
This is how you share your games on PS4. Thanks.
PlayStation.
$1,600 layoffs happening today, another 1,600 expected to happen over the next fiscal year. So major impacts there, and we're looking at what this means.
We've all heard the dream. Give creative studios total freedom and they will make magic. But at Xbox, that dream has turned into a very expensive nightmare.
But for this to pay off, it's going to have to be pretty expensive for all of the reasons that you just mentioned. Do gamers still care enough to
I think
shell
it's
out that
expensive if we do not innovate, and I came to help that problem. I think that, look, it is natural that prices go up. Every generation around us is raising prices, but I don't think you can raise prices through the hardware crisis that we're seeing, and so it will require fundamental change in terms of how we innovate and how we think about the business models and how we go bring this to market, and we're working on that.
Doom the Dark Ages developer, id Software, has reportedly been gutted during the latest round of mass layoffs at Xbox. Multiple anonymous sources have told game developer that around 50% of employees at the Texas-based studio have been laid off. Of course, there's not really much for us to say that hasn't been said.
Congratulations, new DLC out today.
Yeah.
Congrats.
That is a nice little present for you.
Here's how we
you
celebrate.
Released a new DLC today. All right, goodbye to half.
You don't gotta work on the day that you play it. Congrats. You have the day off.
Jesus.
You have the fucking rest of your career off.
An interesting thing that you've put on your notes here is Xbox no longer for any of us. I think it's an interesting point, right? Because it seems to be the case that Gen 10 is going to be really, really difficult. And the decisions being made in the run-up to Gen 10 are basically all about sort of guarding revenue as opposed to coming up with a vision that's actually going to excite people about playing games. I mean, is there anything in this Asher Sharma email that says, okay, this is really, really tough decision-making, I can kind of understand it, but, beyond that, why should we be excited about Xbox? That's it.
We shouldn't.
The people I'm mad at are almost never going to really face consequences. They're going to continue to make millions of dollars while the people who are going to suffer are going to continue to be the developers at these studios. Like somehow Obsidian, right? We're going to lay off people from Obsidian, the one studio who has been consistently making games for you guys. And Xbox, they had the opportunity to foster more of these franchises. They own Rare. They had Perfect Dark and Banjo-Kazooie and did jack all with that. They canceled the Perfect Dark game. Banjo-Kazooie, they haven't even fucking tried since nuts and bolts.
I don't know. My take is like, they obviously do not care about this part of the business, right? Because it's a massive, sort of divestment, right? So it's like, certainly, if there's a world where somehow Xbox becomes profitable after this decimation and the sort of like repairing of this colossal mismanagement of the last however many years, like, all right, then Xbox will continue because it's making money. But all of this is done in service of like eliminating the wild, sort of unprofitability that Xbox as a business has amassed. So it's like, don't expect anything, because it's not being treated like these are people. It's being treated like it's just another asset.
The problem here has always been, it's not actually been the studios. That has not been Xbox's problem. It's always been management. Like Don Matrick, there's that story going around yesterday of someone who worked on Halo 4 presenting it to Don Matrick, and him like stopping like what was it, like when the tank comes in and saying, "Does anybody here play Diablo 3? It came out a little bit ago." Like, and he tried to present to everyone on a team the fucking auction house for
real money
skins.
Auction house with the real money that like almost tanked that game in the beginning, that they had to get rid of because everyone fucking hated it so much. And all the fucking yes men would be like, "That's a great idea, Don. That's amazing. That's so awesome."
It's a wild story because it's emblematic of everything that is wrong with Xbox management over the years. From that to then, we have the Phil Spencer era where they massively overspend to try to make Game Pass the biggest thing in the world. And then what we didn't know until semi-recently is the whispers on the wind weren't true. Like, they were like, yeah, Game Pass is profitable. Everything's looking good. We've built up this portfolio again. It's going well. And then we find out the truth of, because they're not accounting for running the studios, which of course they wouldn't if they're willing to just cut the studios left and right. And that's how we end up here with the Asha Sharma era, where Xbox got too damn big. And like Grubb is always saying, the Hatchet Man approach, they sent her in to just make cuts left and right and just upend everyone's lives.
Yeah.
It's just an endless cycle of not a cohesive vision, and the vision of Microsoft, which is always the problem. It's like Microsoft and their management, oozing down into anything interesting that Xbox might be doing and needing that infinite profitability, that infinite growth. And it is insane because it never works out, as we're seeing here.
Xbox is done, I guess. I don't know. Like, what the fuck is... Okay.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle. This is a world where nothing is solved.
This is the only fucking shit you people care about!
There's this idea that Microsoft wants to sort of extract software kind of revenues out of a gaming business, which, may not be possible. Do you have more breathing room?
You said to me back in February that you were pretty frightened, right? You were pretty frightened by the cost of RAM and what that would mean for consoles. And since we spoke, the PS5 price has gone up, the Steam Deck price has gone up, the Switch 2 price has gone up. Are you still pretty frightened?
More so. Look at it this way in simple terms. Again, it's Monday morning quarterbacking, it's hindsight. But in 2020, when they were coming out with the Series X and the S, you would imagine in 2026, the Series X is probably $299 right now, and the S is probably $150. So now you can buy the hardware. So it makes more sense to have a Game Pass. You got all these games because everybody can afford to go buy a freaking Xbox. You can't do that in 2026. And that is just the fundamental problem. People literally cannot afford to own the box. They know they're going to lose money on it. They know it. But they're doing it because this is the plan today. But will it be the plan 2 or 3 years from now?